Hey mate, what's up? Where you going? What's up, folks? I'm John. I like to lift weights and live actively, and today I'm going to give you a full day of eating. As you can see, I'm just coming back from the beach where I just did my morning swim, so I'm just waking up and I'll get right into all of the food I'm eating today. So right now I'm doing sort of an animal-based or carnivore diet. Basically, I just eat a lot of meat and eggs and dairy. And so I thought it'd be interesting to sort of show you how I'm eating, how I'm getting enough energy to feel great and continue living actively. It's actually very easy to do and it's not so expensive. So one of the first things that I want to make really clear is that this is just what I eat in a day. This is not what you should eat or what I think you should eat. This is just me sharing what I actually eat, and you can do with that information what you will. I think there's a lot of dogma in the space of nutrition where people sort of gravitate towards these diets and these ideologies as if they're like religions, and it tends to sort of basically alienate people. There are a lot of people in the carnivore space that say, this is the only human diet, this is what everyone should be eating, and vegetarians and vegans can fuck off, you know? I don't think that strongly. I think that you should be informed about what you're eating, but you should make your own decisions, and we have the freedom to do that, and that's a wonderful thing about this world. In fact, my partner, my wife, is vegetarian currently. So the center of the Venn diagram of what we actually eat is just eggs. But I love her nonetheless. And so just wanted to be very clear that I think that this is what I eat. Maybe you can be inspired by it or you can get some good ideas for it, but it's not me telling you what to do. So with that said, I think the sort of unique angle that I can provide to this from the way that I eat compared to the way that most of the people in the carnivore space, or at least like the big influencers in the carnivore space, say that they eat, is that when you look at most people's sort of diet recommendations on carnivore, basically they're kind of just eating ribeyes, you know? They're eating expensive ribeye and tomahawk steaks, which, don't get me wrong, are delicious and they look amazing. But I think like the average person doing that probably either can't afford or doesn't want to spend as much money to just eat steaks every day. And that's me. So like, I love eating a good ribeye and I'll get them when they're on offer, but they're not always on offer. And so most of the time I'm eating things more like organ meats, ground beef, and eggs because they're cheaper. Yeah, because they're cheaper and just as nutritious. So I think, what I'm hoping to show you is that like, you can eat on carnivore, you can look forward to every single meal, you can really enjoy the flavor of the meals that you eat, as I do, without going over the top and trying to make it the most gourmet and delicious thing possible. I think if you're a person who's trying an animal-based diet or a carnivore diet or any sort of diet, essentially, where you're restricting what you eat in order to get some other outcome, your primary criteria is not how good it tastes or how presentable it looks or how Instagrammable the photos are, but your primary criteria is rather the nutrition or getting sort of some relief from some sort of symptoms or disease you might have that your diet might help with, or maybe losing weight or whatever. But you have some primary criteria that is what is in the food, the nutritional value that it gives to you, that should come first. And at the end of the day, if you're just starting out trying to change your diet, you don't need to go all in on maximizing the flavor of your specific dishes and whatnot, and I think for some people, if you're like not a good cook and you don't know how to make the most delicious deals possible, getting into the mindset of where you think you have to do that can just hold you back. At the end of the day, ground beef is just as healthy as ribeye steaks, so you can just eat that. If the flavor and sort of mouth-watering effect of my meal was the most important thing to me, well, I wouldn't be eating a really restrictive diet. But for me, it's much more important to feel good, have energy, and just feel like I'm making the most nutritious choices that I can. And so that's why I eat that way. So for me, I think that the extra value add of making it maximally delicious usually isn't worth the cost and the preparation time to do that. It's kind of like fashion, I think. Like, I can see the value of like, oh yeah, it'd be nice to like own nice clothes and like look really good all the time I go out, and I'd probably get more like respect and attention from people if I did that. But it would cost a lot of money, so instead I just wear my ratty t-shirts and my gym clothes when I go out, and I try to let my personality speak for itself. So I imagine, I can see why people do think that's valuable, but for me, it's just not worth the effort and the time and the cost. So yeah, if you expected some gourmet 5-star meal options here, this ain't it. I'm gonna do me, and it's very simple and not that glamorous at all.
So the first thing I consume in the day is a bit of water. And I'm a big believer in eating whole foods and trying to get as much of our nutrition as possible from whole foods, not from supplements. That said, I do think that it probably makes sense to supplement electrolytes. Because with the minerals here, I'm not trying to make up for something that's not in my food. I'm trying to make up for something that's not in my water. And I honestly don't know a good way to get better water because I just have to drink the local tap water that I have here. And I don't know of a good way to test it either. So I put some minerals in it. And this is just the cheapest, no sugar electrolyte mix I can find. It's not Element. Element's way too expensive. And I think the only way anyone has actually heard of Element is in sponsored videos for people who are getting paid to sell Element, which tells me all I need to know about it. So yeah, I just went for the cheapest one, and it works fine. So I put an unmeasured amount in here, a scoop or two, and drink this throughout the morning. Yeah. Now I'm off to the beach to get some sunlight and go for a swim and wake myself up.
So, second thing second, I'm gonna have a coffee, which means I need to grind the old beans. There we go. I really like the morning ritual of just grinding my own beans. Warms up my grip for the day. Not so bad. But I'll stand out in the sun as I do this, because why not? It's there. We gotta do it. So you carnivore zealots watching right now might be saying, but John, coffee's not an animal. Coffee's a friggin' plant. You can't drink that when you're on a carnivore diet. And to that I say, yeah, so what? Maybe I'm not on a carnivore diet then. I have tried 3 months of not doing any coffee, and yeah, I don't think I noticed much of a difference. I mean, you obviously notice a difference in your morning energy and just sort of the normal things from caffeine, but in terms of like not having any plants, ultimately, I think I'm more productive in the mornings if I enjoy a delicious coffee. So I'm going to keep doing that, you know? It doesn't seem to mess with my digestion in any way or give me any real negative side effects, except when I go too far and I'm drinking like 4 coffees a day. That's obviously too much. So I just try to avoid that. But again, with this video, I'm trying to make it very clear that there are no rules to anything. What someone else says you should eat, whatever falls into the doctrine of the way of eating that you ascribe to, you know, you don't actually have to do those things. You should just do what works well for you, what you are inspired to do, and fuck what other people have to say. And it's great to get other ideas from other people, but at the end of the day, you got to make the decision for yourself because it's your life. Right. Oh yeah, fresh Papua New Guinea beans from Café Mélanesien. And I already boiled the water while I ground the beans. Excellent. Oh yeah, baby. Look at those bloomin' beans. Mmm, succulent. Alright, that should be enough for a nice fat 1.5 cups. So we'll let that steep for 3 minutes and then enjoy. Time to take the plunge. Oh yeah, baby. Pour myself a cup. And then usually I drink this with a dollop of whole milk. As you can see, I'm using literally the shittest milk you can, which is UHT milk, because I live on a small Pacific island, and though it is possible to get fresh milk, you kind of have to go out of your way to buy it, and so most of the time we don't. That's delicious. Oh my God. There's nothing better than the first hit of coffee in the morning. Oh my goodness. It's just incredible. Right, so I'm gonna get about my day, then I'm gonna do my workout, and then after the workout, I'll turn on the camera again and show you what I'm eating. All right, see ya. So I just finished a little upper body workout and now I've got a bit of an appetite. It's like 12:50 p.m. and I'm about to go make my lunch. So this is my first meal that I eat usually in the day, and essentially I just have beef and eggs, but I'll show you exactly how I do it. So first thing I do is take some beef and throw it in a pan. Yeah, so this is just some ground beef that I get from the local butcher. It's grown right here on the island. One thing that's a little bit interesting is that I wish it had more fat than it actually does. If you're living in like the States or the UK or I don't know, somewhere with big supermarkets, you can probably choose the amount of fat you want in your ground beef or your beef mince. In the States, you can usually get 90%, 80%, sometimes 70%. I think 80-20 is like pretty darn good if you're trying to mostly eat meat because you need a lot of energy, you need a lot of fat, right? But this stuff is like very, very low fat. It's the only option we have here. But I think it's just because our cows are just grass-fed. I don't think they're grain-finished at all, and they're just not super fatty. And I've talked to the butchers, and they say they don't take any of the fat. But let me know in the comments what you think this is. But like, I honestly reckon it's like 95% lean or something. It's pretty fantastic. But because of that, as you'll see, I do add a fair bit of butter usually because I feel like I'm not getting enough fat. Right, so I normally don't weigh this out. I'm just doing that for your benefit so that I can give you sort of my macros afterwards. I don't count calories. I don't try to keep some optimal ratio or anything. You can do that if it's useful for you, but I honestly find that the amount of time it takes per day to count calories is like massive. Like it's going to take probably 5 minutes or so a day. You have to measure the portions of everything and think about it and then put it into a calculator later. On the flip side, you can just weigh yourself every day and it takes 5 seconds and it tells you the same information. Did you eat enough food? Did you eat too much food? And then you can just modify it on the back end. So I just eyeball it and I apportion out as much as I think I'm going to eat. Yeah, well, that looks like maybe a little bit more. That's about right. Okay, so we can see on the scale there, it's saying 363 grams of, I'll probably put this at 95% lean beef. Maybe 90, I'll go 90, that's I don't know, an easier guess in case I'm underestimating it. But anywho, normally I just take this and chuck it directly in the pan. But I've got to heat it up first. So first I heat up my pan and I put in, not mustard, but in fact, homemade ghee. So yeah, not a fan of cooking with seed oils. Used to cook with butter, which was great, but butter sometimes burns. So if you just clarify your butter, you can make your own ghee, no problem. So, whack some butter in there. Again, don't measure it, doesn't really matter, because if I eat more than I wanted to eat today, then I'll eat less tomorrow, or in a week, or in a month. Not too worried about it. I think one of the things that people underestimate with diet is that if you have a reasonably, I don't want to say restrictive, but a reasonably regular diet where you're eating mostly the same things every day, then just doing it by feel works perfectly, right? If you're trying to try new recipes every single day, then yeah, it makes sense to look to like a third-party resource, like counting, the calories in it, to deeply understand how much food it is. But if you're just eating like similar meals with similar ingredients every single day, you don't really have to plan recipes in particular, and you definitely don't have to plan and measure the exact amount of the ingredients, because you know how much makes you full, you know how much makes you gain weight or lose weight, whatever your goals are. So it just simplifies things. And I think that's something that people often overlook when they're in this mindset of like, every meal must be maximally delicious. I need to make recipes that people will be proud of and that, you know, are part of some sort of food culture or something like that. And don't get me wrong, you know, no disrespect if that's you and you find that. But if you're only doing that because that's the way you've been raised and you just think in terms of recipes, it can be helpful, at least for a time, to sort of like take your mind it can be helpful to sort of like break free of that mindset and just realize like, actually, what you should be eating in meals is just quality ingredients in sort of any ratio that you see fit that gives you energy and that makes you feel good. So anyways, this pan's almost hot, so I'll throw on the beef. Alrighty. And so like I said, I actually usually measure this out in the pan directly, not in a bowl. And somehow I think maybe that's slightly more than I would normally do. Yeah, I'm not sure. Really tough to say. So, the carnivore's favorite condiment is table salt. I'm just putting a bunch of salt on this because it tastes delicious. Because like I make ghee from unsalted butter. Normally when I add butter to things, the butter itself is salted, but that doesn't work so well when you're making ghee. So, we have that. We'll let this sizzle and simmer for a little bit. So again, not only do I not measure this, but I also sometimes rotate through different things. Ground beef is a staple because it's nice and cheap and it's very easy and it's very versatile. But frequently I will also have like slices of beef heart, which I find to be very, very delicious. Sometimes I'll have like a little piece of liver. Normally I buy like a whole cow or calf's liver, slice it up and then freeze it. Right now I only have some that's in the freezer, so it's just not ready to eat yet. I forgot to thaw it in order to make this video. But yeah, so sometimes I'll like, you know, substitute slightly different meats or whatever, but you know, the amount is pretty similar. So those are looking pretty good. So we're looking good here, ready for a flip. So I'll try to like make it like something like medium rare. I definitely want to keep some of it like almost raw-ish, because since I'm not eating any plants or vegetables to get my vitamin C, it means I need to get the vitamin C from meat, and it denatures when you overcook it. So yeah, I think if you don't want to supplement vitamin C on a carnivore diet, it's completely doable, but you do gotta eat some rare or raw meat. Which is great because it actually tastes better like that. It's almost as if your body is craving those type of nutrients. Yeah, baby. So I guess I call it ground beef, but it's kind of like little burgers or whatever. And the grease I will of course eat, but I'm about to whack a bunch of eggs in here, so no need to pour it out right now. Yeah, so I turn these into a bit of a cheeseburger. I just whack a bit of grated Emmental cheese directly on top of it. And it melts nicely and makes it delicious. If you're buying pre-grated cheese like this, I'm buying this because it's just literally the cheapest one available here. You do probably want to check to see what ingredients are in it. This one's just cheese, but a lot of them will add some sort of flour or like anti-caking agent, whatever the fuck that means, so that it doesn't stick together. So this one clumps a lot, but it's just cheese. And so while I'm cooking my lunch, I also like to prep my dinner. And so tonight I'm going to be having one of my classic meals, which is just slow-cooked beef. I think this is like a chest cut or like a breast. I don't know what they call it. It's called poitrine in French, but it's like a very fatty cut for roasting. So like if you roast this puppy for like more than 4 hours or so, it gets tender as hell. And this one, unlike the ground beef, has like a shit ton of fat in it. And maybe that's the reason the ground beef is so lean here, because they're not taking the cut off of things like this. So I buy this, the butcher shop just like puts them into like roughly kilo blocks, and then wraps them up individually. So I buy a bunch of those, whack them in the freezer, and then I just put it in the slow cooker. So right now, as you can see, there are already some bones in here. So I actually had this meal like 2 nights ago, but I didn't finish all of it. So I'm just gonna add more on top of it, or at least try to, because it is properly. Yeah, that should work. Yeah, usually it fits. All right, so it'll have to melt, and then we'll go from there. Once it thaws a little bit, I can fully close the lid. That should be all right. Right, so with this, I just put a bunch of salt on. This one I put a lot of salt on because, yeah, I mean, it's just a fuck ton of food. There's so much fat in here. This is going to be way more than one dinner's portion. So I put a bunch of salt on it. Then I add a small amount of vinegar. I'm just using white vinegar. You can also use apple cider vinegar. I don't find much of a difference. The vinegar just helps it break down and sort of release the collagen and stuff a little bit faster. I don't think it does actually that much for the flavor, in my opinion. So, put a dash of vinegar in there, whack it on, slow cook mode, and then dinner time, when I'm hungry again, I'll have a delicious meal. Easy. So, back to the current meal. Of course, normally I'm just not taking the time to film this, so things happen a little bit more simultaneously. But that's okay. So yeah, so get the pan nice and hot, blah, blah, blah. Then I fry some eggs. So I've been having like eggs as my sort of primary like lunch meal for many years now. When I started, I think I started in like, I was doing like 3 egg scrambles with a bunch of vegetables. Eventually worked up to like 4 egg scrambles. Then I was doing 5 egg scrambles. Then I sort of started cutting out the vegetables. And yeah, now we're up to 9 fried eggs is what I currently eat. These are not like super large. Some of them are large, but I'd say overall probably average is like medium eggs. I mean, some of them are pretty decent. But the yolks on these are awesome. They're free range, local. It's the good stuff. You'd think with all the eggs I'd have cracked in my lifetime, I'd be good at cracking them, but not the case. I'm terrible at cracking them. Again, a little bit of salt. Bada bing, bada boom. So what about you guys? How do you guys like your eggs? I currently am on a kick of doing fried eggs, and I'll do them like sunny side up to make sure the white's like fully cooked. But before I used to do scrambled eggs, and I sort of like rotate. Every couple months I'll just start eating them a different way. And it makes me not get bored of eggs. Honestly, I fucking love eggs, and I do eat them every single day, and I'm looking forward to doing that for the rest of my life. So if you're patient, or you have a really big pan, it's nice to do fewer numbers of eggs in the pan at a time, because it's a lot easier for flipping adequately. But I'm not very patient, and I like to eat 9 eggs, so, you know, you win some, you lose some. Again, we're not getting points for style. We're not getting points for how it looks for the YouTube video. We're getting points for eating something that's local, sustainable, and healthy every single day, and that I look forward to. That's why I do it. And that's why I eat what I eat. It's actually like I get worse at cracking eggs every day. Someone please teach me how to crack eggs. One thing I will note that the easier an egg is to crack, I feel like the shittier the egg is. Lots of times I go back to the States and you get those like white eggs that just like, I mean, they take like no effort to crack at all and the shell just falls apart. You want something that looks like it might survive in the wild, I reckon. Even though they're obviously unfertilized eggs. So as I said, I like a nice dollop or so of salted butter as well, because the beef is pretty low fat. Eggs have a great amount of fat, so they don't need that much butter themselves. Get these right, that should be alright. Nice, over easy kind of thing. So yeah, so this pile of eggs and beef is the meal that I eat almost every single day. And then a new addition, which I've been doing, which I quite like, is to just throw on some yogurt. I think it makes just like a nice, tasty little sauce. This stuff is called fromage frais, and it's like 7.8% fat, and it's absolutely delicious. I guess it's pretty similar to maybe like a Greek yogurt, or like a fatty Greek yogurt, that is. Yeah, pretty good. You know, it's like a simple tzatziki sauce, except it's literally just yogurt. Look at this magnificent plating. Wow, we're so gourmet. Wow, we're so fancy. So that's it. That's what I'm gonna eat. That's my first meal. And honestly, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it looks fucking delicious and I can't wait. Alors, à la table, bon appétit. Let's dig in, mate. Oh, it always hits so good every time. Nothing like some well-cooked burger meat. As you will also see, I haven't practiced how to eat properly. Just getting in there with my hands. But it is what it is. The gooey eggs, my god, so delicious. So, now I sit here and eat my lunch, then I'll go on a walk, and then, so right now it's like 1:20. Took like 20 minutes to cook that and film it. Most of it was actually just filming it. But yeah, anyways, it's like 1:20, having my first real meal. And then I'll eat dinner whenever it's convenient in the night. I'm not sure what I'm doing this evening. I might be playing ping pong at a friend's house, or I might be playing spike ball at the beach. Either way, you know, I'll probably be home 7:30, 8 or so, having my dinner. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoy me putting myself out here, eating like an absolute slob, but trying to keep it real for you guys. You know, I just eat 2 very simple meals a day, but people do ask me a lot what I eat because I manage to stay pretty lean and continually get stronger. So people want to know, but like, there's nothing that special or secret about it. If you eat whole foods and you eat to satiety and you actually do that and not just pretend to do that, I don't think it's that hard. I don't think it's that hard at all. Yeah, I'll figure out the macros for this later and flash that information on the screen at some point. But again, I don't do that. I don't think about what macros I'm eating. I don't think about what my daily protein requirements are or anything. I would imagine that it would be very, very difficult to actually be eating more protein from whole food sources. I guess if I cut out the eggs and only ate the lean beef, yeah, I could get more protein. But fuck, I'd have to eat so much in order to get enough calories if I was eating less fat. So, am I getting enough protein? Probably. And I'm washing it down with some cold ass water. So a note about cost. Carnivore diet's not going to be the cheapest diet you can do, right? If you're like used to eating like rice, potatoes, certain legumes, pasta, bread as some of your staples, like if you're getting most of your calories from those sources, like they're definitely going to be cheaper per calorie than beef and eggs are, for sure, almost anywhere in the world. But of course, the price for that is their lower nutrients in almost every single nutrient for the price as well. So there are both sides to it. So it's not going to be the cheapest thing you can ever do. That said, I don't think it has to be that expensive. I'm not putting the prices on these things. You guys can look them up yourselves in your local area, because it obviously varies a lot depending on where you live. I live in New Caledonia, which is French overseas territory in the South Pacific. So it's an island here. And I mean, the prices just have nothing to do with what prices are in the rest of the world. So I won't even bother saying them. So if you are looking for sort of cheaper cuts of meat in order to save money, I think ground beef is of course a good one. Lots of the sort of like stewing beef tend to be a little bit less expensive, and then obviously Organs are generally very inexpensive depending where you are. Most supermarkets, I think, in the States won't stock them. Here in France and in the Pacific, you definitely can get organ meats at the supermarket, which is sick. But obviously, the animals have organs, so the organs have to go somewhere. So if you go to your butcher, you can usually find them. In terms of getting into organs, the only problem with organs is they have really strong flavor, which again, I would say is like a secondary, third. Yeah, it's not the most important criteria we should be eating for nutrition, I think. But they have a strong flavor, and I think probably the reason they have a strong flavor is they're like loaded full of nutrients, which can kind of be good, kind of be bad. I think you can probably overdo it on eating like too many organs. It's definitely hard to eat a lot of organs, I would say. But if you're interested in getting into like organ meats, I would recommend starting with heart. I think beef heart is like, I don't know, it's kind of like the gateway organ meat because though technically it is an organ, the heart, of course, is an organ, it has a special function. It's the only organ that's kind of like skeletal muscle, so like it beats a lot and it moves in the same way that skeletal muscle's primary function is to move things and to support the skeleton, I guess. So because of that, it still has like its own really irony, nice taste. But I think nutritionally, it's not so loaded with nutrients as like liver is, for instance. And texture-wise, it's a little bit more like skeletal muscle. So I would say that's the one that I keep coming back to and that I eat the most of. I for sure eat the most heart, more than like liver, for instance. All right, well, I'm not gonna make this video 30 minutes longer while you guys watch me eat, so we'll fast forward to the end. All right, well, that was lunch. Time to rest and digest. I'll catch you this evening. And now it's dinner time, and there we have it in all its majesty. Some delicious poitrine. So yeah, I mean just slow cooked roast ass beef with the bones sticking out. So then this will be dinner. A couple of big hunks of the meat with a few ladles of its broth. And usually that'll be about it. I might eat a little bit more. We'll see how hungry I am. But usually the broth is just so rich and fatty that it usually ends up being enough. Even though it looks like quite a bit less bit food than I ate for lunch. I reckon calorically it'll be pretty similar. Oh yeah, which reminds me, I need to weigh this shit. Just look at the delicious fat on this. Absolutely falling apart, mouth-watering. So delicious. We are not that professional. All right, we've taken out the bone for the extra weight, and so it's like, you can't see that at all probably, but it's 585 grams. Yeah, maybe I'll eat a little bit more, but honestly, one bowl of this usually is just an absolute shit ton of energy. Super, super fatty. So yeah, that is what I eat in a day. Basically just 2 main meals, sort of a lunch, and then a dinner. So it's actually like 9 p.m. right now, because I ended up going over to my friend's place and getting stuck in a long session of table tennis. We were having some good points going on. Anyways, the gameplay was sick, so I came back a little bit later. So I guess it's been like almost 8 hours, 7.5 hours since I had my last meal. But yeah, I guess in that time I also went on a nice jog and played some ping pong. So it was a pretty active day, so I did weightlifting at lunch and then like a 45-minute run, just like a zone 2 run though. But nice and active. And I had lots of energy for it. I always have tons of energy when I eat this way. Almost like eating is almost like an afterthought when I'm on a carnivore diet. Like, I know that I need to eat, of course, because if I chronically don't eat, I'll obviously start wasting away. But on any given day, I'm never particularly hungry. Like, the relationship with hunger is quite different. It's quite incredible. So yeah. This is a typical thing that I would eat in a regular day. So the lunch meal is pretty much always identical. It's some variation of eggs and beef. It might be a slightly different cut of beef. It might be some sort of like dinner leftovers, but then always the eggs. For dinner, I sort of rotate through this like roast beef kind of meal. I also will sometimes have like a whole chicken just in the oven. Sometimes I'll make steaks or beef heart on the grill. Sometimes I'll roast pork belly in the oven. What else do I eat? Just about that, I guess. Yeah, so I also do a fair bit of spear fishing. I haven't lately, so I don't have any fish fresh or in the freezer right now. But when I have fish, I'll often make fish either just in the oven with butter or on the grill served with butter. So yeah, I'll eat some fish from time to time as well. But that's pretty much it. So I have a little bit of variety in my evening meals, but most of them are very quick to prep, and I can just pretty much prep them entirely while I'm making my lunch meal. And since I work from home, it's very easy to just come down, prep my lunch, prep my dinner in one fell swoop, and then sort of basically put things in the oven for dinner, or if it's made in the crock pot, just take it out. So very, very easy, very, very simple. Hopefully it's been useful to you guys. Let me know if you like this style of more informal content. I do try to like give value in my content, and I think a lot of my videos are more shorter, and I'm using a script because I want to talk about a couple specific points. And I think those can be valuable as well, but they obviously don't showcase my personality as much. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully it's not too boring. Whatever, let me know either way. I appreciate you guys watching, and I appreciate those of you who requested this video. Feel free to drop any other requests in the comments for future videos and topic ideas. I've just released my new training program, 2 Hour Body. It's available free with a link in the description. And essentially it's high intensity training, the type of training I've been doing for the last 16 or 18 months, meant to be a minimum effective dose style of training that you can make pretty decent gains on in a very small amount of time. So if you're a beginner to intermediate lifter and you're interested in trying out high intensity for the first time, check out the program. It sort of goes over how all of the variables work together and gives you a sample template program that you could run for several months at a time. It's essentially what I've been doing for the last 16 months. I'm also taking applications for one-on-one coaching if you're interested in that. The link is also in the description on my website. What's up, folks? This is Future John here, going through the edit now, and I'm putting all of my meals into Chronometer in order to calculate the nutrients and the macros and all the stuff like that. I do want to emphasize again that I do not track any of these things normally. I'm doing this for the purposes of the video because people will be curious, but I do not track any of these numbers normally. I just limit myself to animal-based foods, and I eat to satiety, and that's the whole thing. And that allows me to maintain my weight, have great energy, and just feel awesome generally. Anyways, with that said, it puts me in at about 3,527 calories on the day. For reference, on this day, I weighed about 85 kilos or 187 pounds. Probably an above average male weight, but a below average male body fat, I would guess. And one thing that's kind of interesting is I got 294 grams of protein, which when I see people talking on the internet about their protein goals and stuff is way above most people's protein goals, which kind of makes sense because I'm simply focusing on only the most protein-rich sources of food on the planet. And when you're not eating anything that's a poor source of protein, like plants, it's pretty easy to get a lot of protein, right? But again, I don't track that because I don't care how many grams of protein someone says I need because they're just guessing, right? At the end of the day, we just need to eat the food that makes us feel good. And for me, right now, this is it. So some quick figures here. 294 grams of protein at 85 kilograms of body weight is 3.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, or 1.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight. You see a lot of people in the fitness space recommending exactly how many grams of protein you need to have in order to build muscle and all that. My suspicion is that people are so invested in the notion of you need to eat tons of protein simply to sell protein powder supplements. Because if you are not eating an animal-based diet where you're eating an absolute shit ton of meat, it's kind of hard to get a lot of protein in because you're getting a lot of calories from sources that just don't have that much protein. I'm of the strong opinion that we should just endeavor to eat whole foods as much as we possibly can because we obviously evolved to eat whole foods. We didn't evolve to eat protein supplements and things like that. Yeah, so I think if your diet relies on you supplementing protein in order to feel like you can get stronger or to feel healthy, like it's probably not optimal. Obviously, supplementing protein does work. But you're probably eating something that's not that important, perhaps like fiber, which I eat none of and haven't for over a year, and my guts have never felt better. Anywho, again, I want to emphasize that when I'm just trying to maintain a normal body weight, the sort of like effortless body weight for me, I just eat to satiety, and that keeps me around roughly the same body weight all the time. However, every so often, I do want to gain weight because I'm trying to build muscle and get stronger over years. So when I am trying to gain weight, my diet looks basically the same. I just add milk to it. And adding a glass or two of milk will give you a couple hundred extra calories. It's a very easy way to take in a little bit of extra energy without feeling that much more full. So that's what I do when I'm trying to bulk. I just drink a little bit of milk. So very, very simple. So anyways, if this type of content interests you, I'm going to be making a lot more videos about my experiences of doing a carnivore diet for about a year coming up soon. I have like 3 weeks left of my year-long carnivore diet experiment, and I'm excited to share my findings and share my experiences with y'all. So that'll be coming up in the next couple months. And yeah, for now, this is how I'm eating. And to be honest, I think I like this way of eating better than any way I've ever tried before. Although I am keen to try to bring back some staple vegetable foods that I enjoy. But we'll see. Anywho, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you folks. We'll catch you in the next one.